Today we have Tamil National Alliance MP. I'm Sumanthiran here with us, here to speak to TamilCanadian.com. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. Since the end of May 2009, this is the first time TNA has come to North America in a formal capacity. What brings TNA to North America, and who are you planning to meet? Where do you plan to stop, and what do you expect to accomplish?
Well, this visit is as a result of Assistant Secretary of Blake, Assistant Secretary of State Robert Blake of the U.S. State Department extending an invitation to us that we come to the U.S. State Department and hold some discussions with them. We have been talking to several high officials of the U.S. State Department for 3 days in Washington. We also made use of the time that we were there to meet with various congressmen and senators also. We are also due to meet with some officials in the United Nations in New York. So in between the two, we thought of coming over to Canada as well. And tomorrow in Ottawa we have some meetings in the Foreign Ministry and also an open forum for parliamentarians at which we will explain the situation back home.
Okay. And since the end of the war, especially in the beginning, there were perceptions that there were divisions within TNA. And I mean, if we look at where we are 2 years later, TNA is stronger than ever before, did very well in the elections, especially the latest municipal election. Could you give us a brief insight into what has happened in TNA over the last 2 years, and is it a united political organization now?
The Tamil National Alliance is actually not a political party. It's an alliance of a few political parties in Sri Lanka. And as you would expect with any alliance, there is always bound to be differences of opinion more than a single political party. Even in a single political party, there will be diverse views. But the TNA, I must say, with regard to our particular objective at this hour for the Tamil people, has been united. Even amongst the different political parties, there is no difference of opinion as such. It's focused as to what we ought to accomplish, and that is finding an acceptable political solution by way of an arrangement where the Tamil people of the Northern East will have greater autonomy. And we have been working towards that end. Our continued electoral success and better performances increasingly due to the people reposing confidence in the way that we have been working since the general election in 2010.
And in that regard, we hear the word colonialization thrown around here and there. And could you give us a better insight into the ground situation in Sri Lanka? We hear about Buddhist temples being put in places that traditionally have had Hindu temples, and just other scenarios of militarization. And so could you give us some insight into the ground situation there, please?
Yeah, this program of colonization has been there ever since independence. As you know, the population in the eastern province has drastically changed in character. The demography was forcibly changed by successive governments. Now, after the military victory, the government has decided that they can use this opportunity to accelerate that process. So there are so many programs in place which in certain cases overnight changes the demographic composition of our areas. Naturally, when there is a military victory, the government is in a very strong position because there is no resistance, as it were, on the ground for them to implement anything. When they take over territory hitherto not available to them, it's a military that takes over that territory. There will be a transitional phase before the civil governmental functions can start. So the government has utilized that space and delayed the transfer of governmental power to civilian authorities, kept it firmly within the control of the military, and used that time to make changes on the ground. So cultural places have been destroyed. Many of our places of worship have been destroyed, and Buddhist places of worship, Buddha statues have come up in areas where you don't have even a single Buddhist civilian living. Sure enough, there's a heavy military presence, and they might want to worship in a temple or whatever, but that is no reason why they should establish those places of worship in areas where the civilians live. So there is a program of work that the government is carrying on while they talk to the TNA, while they project talks with the TNA and various other superficial activity to the international community to convince them that there is some serious process of reconciliation that is going on, and therefore the international community should not disturb that by interfering in our affairs. So they keep them away by projecting these factors, and while they are held back on the ground, they are changing the ground situation so that in a couple of years' time they'll present us with a fait accompli which can't be reversed. Now, this is a matter that we have constantly complained about. Even last Friday, last Friday, the Friday before, on the 21st, we called for an adjournment debate in Parliament, and at that we tabled, in my speech I tabled a comprehensive document detailing all of that the government is doing. Once that is placed in Parliament, we have now distributed all over the world with pictures and various other evidence to show what the government is actually doing. While telling the world that there is a process of reconciliation going on, they are doing everything that is in the opposite direction.
Okay. And does the situation differ in different regions in Sri Lanka? So, say in a rural area like Malawi, or in a more populated town like Jaffna Town to Colombo, do the Tamil people in different regions face different issues, or are some of these issues that you spoke of earlier common throughout?
There are common issues, and also there are different issues related to the different regions, particularly in the coastal areas. There are huge issues of migrant fishermen from the south and the west being brought and settled in areas that our people lived and carried on their work. Now these people who have been brought in have even been given licenses to fish in certain areas, exclusive licenses, whereas those who carried on their work in those areas for 40-50 years are unable to even get near the coast. In another area, also the coastal area, they have brought people who do some diving work. All diving equipment is freely given to them, gas cylinders, etc. And they live in houses and places where our people lived previously. And the Tamil people have been reduced to the status of displaced persons even there. In one particular area, on one side of the road, between the coast and the road, is a place where they used to live. Now that place has been fully taken over by people from outside, And these people, the landowners and house owners of that places, are kept on the other side of the road in temporary shelters. So this kind of thing is going on in other places, maybe in inland. If the military decides that there is a particular area strategically important for them, they just take that over, and the people who lived there previously are not given or not permitted to get back to those places. They are sometimes offered alternate places to live in, which they have been resisting. Now, in recent times, the last 7,000 odd people who have been left in Manik camp have been asked to go to a different place, not to the places where they used to live. They have been asked to go to a jungle area called Kombaville in Mullathievu, and those people have agreed to go because life in the camp is obviously far worse than even living in another place. So this kind of thing is still going on.